Hello and welcome to Real Chat with Kat, the podcast dedicated to igniting your entrepreneurial spirit and empowering you to conquer new horizons. In this podcast, we chat with inspiring entrepreneurs on their journey to success through some amazingly insightful and expansive conversations. These episodes thrive on thought-provoking chats where our guests fearlessly explore their path to success, sharing their experiences, failures, and triumphs. No topic is off limits as we deep dive into the talked about and not so talked about pieces it takes to build a business, overcome limiting beliefs, deal with personal struggles, and everything in between that shapes our lives and our businesses. I'm your host, Kat Polsinelli, creator and founder at The Lotus Effect, where we believe that success is not just about strategies and tactics, it's about cultivating a powerful mindset and creating customized business operations that align with you and your true purpose. Whether it's mastering time management, improving productivity, enhancing leadership skills, or simply fostering a growth-oriented mindset, we'll provide you with the tools and strategies to flourish in both your business and personal life. I'm so excited to have you join us today in this episode, so get ready to feel empowered and inspired as we learn together and from one another on how to rise above challenges, break through limitations, and unlock our full potential. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today on this episode of Real Chat with Kat. I'm so excited to have you here with us today and my amazing guest, Amanda DeLaney. So, Amanda, please do us a favor and tell us who you are, what it is that you do, and what got you into it.
Yeah. So hello, everyone. Thank you so much for hopping on here and listening to this chat with Kat today. I'm so excited. So let's see, who am I? So my name's Amanda DeLaney. I'm the founder of Financial FixHer. I've been doing that for about 4 years now. And what I do is I help women mostly and some very sharp men get out of massive amounts of debt, become the boss of their money, create financial independence, and all through just spending behavior, right? And becoming the boss of your money through full awareness. I did it for myself, and now I do it for clients all the time, all over the world. And I absolutely love what I do. A little bit more about me. I'm a mom of 3. I'm a wife. I live in Seminole, Florida, which is just down the street from the beach, Indian Shores, and I love the water. And I really love where I live. I really don't think much about moving anywhere else. I live in paradise, so I feel very blessed to be here in this space. So that's a little bit about me, and I'm just super excited to be connected with Kat, and we collab really well together, and we have a ton in common. So I have a feeling some of that's going to come up today.
I'm super excited. And I love that, the journey that, we've talked about before and on your podcast as well, which we'll be sure to tell that at the end so people can make sure to follow your podcast. But I love the fact that the way that you approach helping people deal with their finances in this collaborative space of understanding and healing and kind of like get the shit done. I feel like it's all wrapped into one. What got you into wanting to be in the financial realm?
Yeah, it's funny. I'm actually a finance major. So I got my finance degree back in 2011. But I didn't really care to be like a financial advisor or even to get into that space. It was really just, I understood numbers. I liked money, and it just made sense. And some of my past experience in work had kind of like, it just made sense to get that degree at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then fast forward, I was a money mess. I was a personal trainer. I had gone through phases of like not knowing what I wanted to do. And then I ended up in sales because kind of finance and sales, they can go really hand in hand. And I ended up in sales and ultimately in trucking industry and selling. But I always kind of used my finance degree. I used it all the time. Right. So it was like, just kind of like this sidekick that I had, right? But I didn't use it in my personal life. I didn't apply things to like, I understood amortization schedules, right? Like I knew how interest rates worked. I understood the compound effect. But I wasn't applying it in my real life. And I ended up in over 6 figures in debt. I had a ton of student loan debt, car loan, credit cards, just wasn't getting it. And one day I woke up and was like, this is not working for me. I need to get my shit together. And it was a lot of life stuff and a lot of trauma and things that I was going through at the time with being a single mom and all that stuff. But ultimately, one of the things that I pinpointed was my finances. Like my money was not in control. And like that was kind of the thing that I started to really zero in on. I got narrowly focused on paying close attention to what was happening with that. And as I did that and started budgeting and really interactively budgeting, working with a budget. It's one thing to say, oh, I have a budget, right? And you know what's coming in and you know how much you're spending every month, but ultimately you're not actively working and budgeting, like working towards growing your wealth through utilizing a budget. And I wasn't doing that. And then I learned how. I started paying attention to mentors and listening to podcasts and really, not listening to really my inner circle, starting to listen to what rich people were doing with money and how that, and not like, buy Bitcoin and get rich fast and all that crazy stuff. No, it was just, what to do, little tiny things to do every day with your money that makes sense and that is going to help you exponentially grow your wealth. Right. And so I started doing that, paying attention, crushing debt, doing all the things, getting really smart with my money. And fast forward, got married, all this other stuff happened, had another child, all the things. And then my now husband, I helped him to get on a budget, and then he paid off a ton of debt. And then between the two of us, it was like somewhere over $200,000, right? Like at the end of the day, when we finally got out of debt out of total debt in non-mortgage debt, actually, we do have a mortgage, not a very big one, which is great in this market. But that was 2019. So after that, boy, I was recovering from a lot of that trauma even still. Right. All that pain that I had gone through, all the hard work that I had put into getting out of debt, and how seriously I realized I had to take it, and I just realized that this was also a problem for so many others. I wasn't alone, like there's just huge communities of people that need this help. And I found that my story, because I started having the conversation out loud and on social media and all the things, was connecting with those that needed to hear it. And they were gravitating to me and started asking me questions and, oh, can you help me? So that was kind of how I got into and now known as the Financial FixHer, which is my brand. And so now I totally geek out and help other women do the same all the time. And it fills my cup. And I absolutely love it. And I can't imagine doing anything else. So it's amazing. So about the finance part, though, I ended up getting into the financial industry by accident. So, like full circle, I, didn't know that I was going to end up doing this. But because of my pain and my trauma and my drama, through the whole process and cleaning up my mess and being in the trenches and really just like, working to get out, I ended up being in the finance industry. Go figure. Personal finance, duh, right? So there you have it.
which is interesting, because when I think back to it, I know you've probably heard this a lot with people on your podcast as well and clients. There's a lot of us that go into the entrepreneurial journey that never thought we would be in the realm that we are at, but it's because of the healing and the journey and the connections that we made that we ultimately realize this is where we're supposed to be and this is what we enjoy doing. And then when you let go and like step into it, that's when it's like the gates open up. You're like, oh my gosh, like this is fantastic, right? Like we've talked about it. My degree is in medical administration. That's what I did for almost 10 years. I never thought I would be a coach ever. Like that was not even on the radar. I don't even think I knew what a coach was till like several years ago. Right. Like, but I have to backtrack, because you said something, you said that, you knew how to deal with finances and you knew the numbers and you understood that, but you weren't taking your own advice. And like, for anyone listening, I just want to be like, how many people right now can raise their hand and say that we tell all these other people all these amazing things that they can do in ways that they can change, yet we don't follow our own opinion.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I mean, I think we do it even still. Like there's times where I'm just like, I'll listen back on a podcast or something, maybe an interview that I did as a guest,
yes,
or one of my podcasts, a solo episode or something, or some other live training that I'm doing. And I'm like, shit, that's some raw ass material right there. And I'll be like, dang, you know, like you crushed it. Right. And then I'm like, wait a minute, like, I need to take my own advice. I need to put those steps in order for whatever it is that, you know,
Yep.
So I think we all fall off track at times and everything. But again, going back to figuring out, I guess our purpose, you know, it has to come from pain. I'm a firm believer that we can't have a purpose unless it's come from some kind of pain. And I didn't know, I never would have guessed if you had asked me 10 years ago what my purpose truly was. Well, first of all, I would have had no freaking clue because I wasn't having that conversation out loud at all. But if you had told me that I was going to be helping hundreds of women and men and couples and married couples and really get their finances in order and take control and change their lives, transform their financial journey, I never would have believed it. And I would have been like that. At the time, I probably would have said, that sounds like really boring and something I don't want to do. Right. Like who wants to, you know, because my head was in the sand. I didn't want to look at my own finances. It was scary. And you were talking about the vulnerability side. So you mentioned vulnerability, I think more than once. I was just on a coaching call with one of my mentors in a group, right? And I had to get realigned with what my values were, like actually write them down. And I know what they are and they speak very clearly in my brand, but I think I forget, you know, what they are sometimes. I'm so used to just exuding it, I guess, but I, you know, I may be falling off track with examining it myself and making sure that I'm staying aligned at all times. And so I wrote down these 3 really core values of the brand and myself is integrity, safety, and vulnerability. And when I'm in these calls, say my one-on-one calls, especially, but even in my group coaching calls with my academy, there's a lot of vulnerability happening. And I want to, and we need to have a safe space for that sometimes. Sometimes it's really hard for us to get vulnerable with our inner circle, right? And, you know, so being able to show up and tell the truth, like last week I had something personal happen, and I had like a full-on meltdown. And I was able to not to just broadcast it to my whole academy, but to a few of my academy members and my clients, tell them what was really going on at a deeper level. And to be able to have that type of community to where you are able to say things that you really, in a lot of cases, can't even say to your own spouse or partner or children or parents. And so I really take that seriously. And I guess that I get my wins as a coach by seeing others do the same and helping them through that, and, you know, going through their process of healing, through telling the truth and being upfront and honest, you know, with themselves and with someone else that's there to listen without judgment. So I love it.
It's creating that safe space, right? I mean, that's one thing that I love doing in my containers as well, is creating that space for people, because we know what it's like to not have that space, you know. And you talked about that in the very beginning. And I know you just brought up again about your inner circle. Sometimes it's not worth going to that circle, because while they are supportive, they also have their own bias based on their beliefs or how they were raised. And if they haven't dealt with things, they haven't healed from things that you have, then you're not on the same level. And so trying to have that conversation and get direct insight, unbiased insight is very hard because they're coming from a totally different place, right? Like they love you, they just want to protect you or they want to support you and they're scared for you. So it comes off that way. Whereas having a community, having a coach, a mentor, having people that you can connect with on a different level that have also done their own healing, where you guys are kind of in a similar journey, right? Or they've been through it and they're steps ahead or whatever. It's a very different conversation because they're not just trying to fix your issue. They're wanting to help you through it, whatever that looks like. And I feel like in our inner circle, in our family, and our close friends, they want to fix things for us. It's almost like we feel like it's an obligation in a sense. And it's not when you kind of have like this open-ended closed circle of people. Like we want to help, but we know that in order to help, like there's boundaries to that, right?
Yeah, that totally makes sense. No, I think we're finding that a lot where the people that we love the most, we oftentimes feel that they're the least supportive because they just flat out don't get it. And they're probably never going to understand why we've made this decision to do what we're doing, why we're, crazy people, entrepreneurs, I'm sorry, are crazy. And, we have to have a certain amount of delusion, naivete. Really to be able to go forth and do something that most people aren't willing to do. Those are just the facts. But as I was mentioning my values, the other one with being integrity, and this goes back to the safe space and the vulnerability is making promises to ourselves, and keeping those promises helps to build that confidence, right? And when my clients or my academy members or my community sees that I'm showing up and in integrity by saying, I'm going to do this thing and then following through and actually doing that thing and doing what I say I'm going to do, there's that trust built, right? But it's not the kind of trust where you trust your mom because your mom raised you and gave, birth to you or whatever. It's a different kind of trust. It's like, I trust this person because there's proof there that I can glean, right? I can lean into that proof and know that it can be done, even if I haven't done it myself. So, and it just, that trust is so key, for us to be able to open up and say, okay, I'm going to tell you everything that's going on with my finances now. And you know how hard that is? I mean, I say never, I don't know. I probably would have, but I didn't have a coach or anyone to say, let's look at your money situation. I had to do it all myself and like reveal it to myself. God, I wish that someone was there for me to just spill it out like diarrhea and tell them everything was going on, cause that is a lot more like, first you feel a little bit, there's that vulnerability and you feel a little bit like that pressure. But once you do it, you just feel so much better when it's out there, when it's like, whatever that truth is, it doesn't necessarily have to be about money, but whatever that truth is, you're able to get it out and say, okay, it's out there. Now I know what's going on. And someone can either give me steps to take care of it, or I can start taking steps going forward, taking that action that's necessary to transform. So.
Yeah. And I know we were talking about this, but before the podcast as well, of speaking it out loud. Like that's such a powerful tool. It's scary as hell, right? Because there's a lot of shame, there's guilt, like all those things bubble up to the surface. And it's a fantastic way to get it out, because it's interesting when you hear it in your head. And tell me what you, I know for me, if I hear it in my head, it's one thing, but if I say it out loud, it's like I hear it a different way. And sometimes there's things that go, oh, wait a minute, never mind, I've got it. I never mind. That makes sense. No, I understand now. Right? Like it's different from, and I guess that's why so many people say that you should write things down, right? You should journal, you should do things like that, because it's not in your head. It's weird because it can be the same words on paper, but there's something about the way that the brain perceives it when you're just saying it in your head versus when it's out loud or on paper for you to reflect back on.
I'm just thinking about so many times in my life where I've either been asking a question, like in the middle of asking a question, right? And answering my question as I'm asking it to someone. How many times have you done that? Like a million gazillion on me.
Yes.
Or I'm typing, I'll text somebody a question, whatever it is, like, I don't know. And after I hit send, the minute I've hit send, I had the answer and I'll be like, oh crap, never mind. I just answered my own question.
Yep.
All the time. And it's because in our head, you're right. It does sound different. I don't know what it freaking sounds like, but it doesn't sound right, which is the reason why self-sabotage is such a problem, because the things that we're saying in our head, like we can't make that out. We can't even question it because we're not totally intuitive on it. So we're just like, we don't even realize when we're self-sabotaging ourselves, the internal narratives. That's why I think journaling really does help. Budgeting helps because you're writing down what's happening with your money. It's becoming true and real and in its actual reality when it's written. And that's the reason, why interactive budgeting and doing things in real time is helping with that awareness piece so much, because we think that when we either run a credit card or a debit card or hand over cash for that matter, that we're really paying attention to our money. Because, I see that I just spent $10 on that, whatever, frivolous little toy, whatever it was. But that memory of it, it kind of goes away, floats away and goes somewhere deep in the fog in the back of our brain.
Yeah.
And with that, we're not doing head math, right? So talking about budgeting as an example, we can't do that kind of head math all month long to manage a budget. That's just silly. I mean, who's got that kind of time? Who's got that kind of energy? Unless you're Rain Man, nobody is keeping an accurate budget in their brain. Sorry, so that's the reason why we have to, tell our budget what's happened. Right. Which is the reason why I say, go back and do a review of what's really going on and then, by the way, how many aha moments did you have? How many repeated patterns do you see?
The repeated patterns.
Those patterns, man, they're there. We've all got them. Right. But if we don't see them or we don't have something that highlights them, no way to do that. It's just, they're going to continue the cycle and it's going to continue to repeat. It's crazy. It's amazing. And again, we all do it. Like I'm no better than anyone else. I've become a master budgeter because I've said, okay, this is the thing I'm going to focus on and I'm going to help others do it too. So I do it by trade, obviously. But, even with that, like with working my own budget, there's times that I still fall off, especially, I know you probably get this too, when you do something for work or for a business or for your passion project, then doing it for yourself is like you forget or it falls off track because like you're doing it all day. So that's what's happened in the past with my budget.
Yeah.
Like I'll forget to make money goals too. I'm like, wait a minute, what about my money goals? I'm helping everybody else with theirs. Well, oh shit, I'm behind.
Oh no, I know. I did that in probably the first almost 2 years of my business, right? Like, so the first year, I stepped into real estate and they don't teach you jack about how to actually run a business. There's nothing. It is, you just make phone calls and you sell houses, right? Like there's nothing about running a business. And one of the most important things about running a business is understanding your money, especially in real estate, right? Because you close a deal, you get this giant check. It's not really giant, y'all, just FYI, it's not. But you get this check and then people will go out and spend it because they're like, oh my God, I got to make up for all the things where I didn't have money, which could have been months, right? But nobody is taught to take money out for your taxes, take money out for any marketing expenses down the road. Like none of that is talked about, so there's so many people that fall into this hole and within 6 months, they don't know what to do because they don't know what to do with their money. And I know that even for me, I had an app that I used to track like miles, which tracked expenses if you put it in. And I was like, well, that's interesting. But I didn't know the things that you could write off, right? So it wasn't until I made the decision to get a CPA and I was like, look, we need to sit down. I have no flipping clue what the hell I'm doing. No clue, right? And having a conversation with them. And I remember the second year in business, because the first year I didn't do much, right? So it's not like it was a huge deal to me at the time, but the second year I was like really picking up. I remember sitting down for a month going back through all of my bank statements, all of my expenses, my credit cards, trying to figure out what I had spent money on throughout the whole year for my business, because I didn't think, and no one told me, and it just didn't occur to me that like, you should be putting that stuff down all the damn time. Right. Yeah. So I remember spending so much time I remember my eyes burning, going through everything, just trying to track it all. And there's no telling how much stuff I missed. Right. Because at the time I didn't realize that, you should run things through a business card. So it's separate from your personal, so that you can go back and find your transactions if you miss out, or if you miss something, or if you need to double check, right? Like I didn't know any of that. You would think that we would know that, but you're not thinking about it because you're in the midst of building a business. So you're just like, swipe the card, right? Oh, I need to buy this. Oh, I need to buy that. Oh, let me get it off Amazon, right? Yeah. And you don't think about using a different card or anything like that. But it wasn't until I hired a CPA and really sat down with someone, I was like, look, I don't know what I'm doing. Like I need the direction, right? And I started putting things in spreadsheets and stuff, which I cheated. I went on Etsy and found a bookkeeping spreadsheet that does it for you. And you just plug in the stuff, because I didn't want to create the spreadsheet.
That's all good. That's not cheating. That's just getting it done. Yeah.
Using a tool. So it's totally worth the like $25 that I spent. And I get to see where my expenses are each month, where my profit is, and I get to see it for a full year as well. So like I get to break down the scale. The one that I got is really great at graphs and breaking it all down and pulling it all apart, which is fantastic. But there's so many of us, even in our personal lives, that we don't think to pay attention to it. Like you said, I know I did it all the time with my kids too, right? Like $5 for a toy here, or $15 for this. We're going to go out to lunch because I want to spend time with them, kind of a thing. And then you get to the end of the month and you're looking at your account, you're like, oh shit, what did I spend money on?
Yeah. Yeah, just like that. Yeah, no, and yeah, it's crazy. So with most of my clients are entrepreneurs. So, and I have found that many of them are within their first 1 to 3 years of doing business. And so, and some of them are making good money, and some of them, not yet. And so it's some in between. But I found that there's always something that we tweak. I help them with the profit first method. I do not teach like, get 10 bank accounts and all that, because it overcomplicates things for them when they're in the beginning, of course. But I do have them do envelopes and make sure that they're bucketing their taxes, they're bucketing their owner's pay so that they can pay themselves. They're bucketing their OPEX, their operating expense, and then also taking a profit. And, working through the percentages that way. But yes, on top of that, the tracking piece, when it comes to the personal budget, is just as important as tracking your business finances, right? And, doing that monthly and making sure that it's all put in a folder file, right? It's all keeping all of your records, right? And then also writing them all down and making sure that you're not missing anything. Because I have done that, to where at the end of the year, when it was time to do taxes, I had to go back through the previous months. And this is really aligned with personal finance. It becomes a job when you're not paying attention in real time or frequently, consistently. So like, clients will come to me and say, I don't want to track. I don't feel like working in my budget. Well, that's because you haven't been doing it. And then you'll come to it once in every 2 weeks or a month and try to backtrack and enter it all in. And that's a job that's very tedious. It's frustrating. It's time consuming. We don't have that kind of time. But if we take that 27 seconds, it takes about 27 seconds to track your money right after the transaction. Or if you don't get a chance, keep your receipt and make sure that you do it later, whatever it is. Really consistently and daily working, that daily practice, it's a game changer for, it becomes fun, because then you're able to be in the current and watch those trends as well. So like in your business, you can see your profit and loss. You can be in the current, like you're kind of up to date, like close to reconciling, right? It's the same thing with personal finance. Like when you're working a budget and it's up to date, it's fully tracked, your trends, right? So you're seeing, okay, so for a food, for example, I see all kinds of amounts in the food budget. Okay. So there's no I am not going to give you a rule of thumb right now, but I'm going to say you have $1,000 to spend on groceries every month, right? Groceries are expensive. We all know that. But say you have $1,000 to spend on groceries and you're at the 15th of the month and you realize, because you've been tracking and you're up to date with your tracking, right, that you've only spent $300 towards groceries and it's the 15th of the month. What does that mean? You're probably going to trend towards only spending $600 towards groceries, maybe $700, right? So at that point, you can say, oh, I can lower my planned amount for this and give myself more money into my budget for other categories and or towards my goals of paying off debt, paying towards my sinking fund for that vacation or that emergency fund that I need to fill so that when emergencies happen, when they happen, not if, right?
Yeah.
I will have that there and not have to dive into some kind of credit card or, be in crisis because we're going to go broke now because some kind of crisis happened, because it's going to happen. So anyways, just staying in the current, that on top of it, not behind. It's so rewarding in the day to day, and it brings so much peace and like calm and low stress. And I can't really explain it. All I can say is experience it. And when you experience it, then you can tell me about it. Right. Because I can't create that belief in you until you start to create the belief in yourself. That's just, I can help you with that. I can give you that motivation, that inspiration, but until you actually experience it and say, it's the same thing with weight loss, working out, nutrition, until you experience how good you feel as a reward to the behaviors that you've been putting on, your nutrition and your working out, you're not going to appreciate it. And it's like that with money. It's tough to appreciate until you feel it.
Well, and a lot of people avoid it, right? Because a lot of us grew up with money issues or, not having it, or there were the belief systems that were passed on to us from other people, whether it's, your parents were very frugal or they, were very loose with money, right? It can be both ends of the spectrum, and that can affect how you decide to deal with or not deal with your money, right? And I see that a lot of people, it's more of like an avoidance because they know if they look at it, there's not going to be much there, which then is going to freak them out, so therefore, if I don't look at it, I don't have to worry about it, right? Kind of a thing. Like there's this huge like avoidance around dealing with money as a whole versus facing the problem. Just like we face problems in every part of our life, right? If we don't like a situation we're in, if we don't like the way our kids are acting, if we don't like the communication with our friends or our family, right? Like there's all these things that we have to face, but it's interesting that money is one that like people avoid all the way around.
Yeah. Well, what I have found, and this audience, please correct me if I'm wrong. I dare you. When you pull back the veil and you get your head out of the sand and you actually do look at it, it's never as bad as your anxiety and fear and your brain is telling you it is. That overwhelm, that anxiety, that fear is so much bigger. It's always so much bigger than the real problem.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you look and you really know what's going on, then you feel in control and you realize, oh, wait, like we do net worth. We work on, taking a snapshot of net worth as one of the steps in my program. And then we go through the debt breakdown and, step by step. Right. But I've had clients and members say, wow, that net worth piece of just knowing what my net worth is and realizing like, okay, like that's not so bad. That's not what I expected. It's usually the case. Sometimes I'm looking at negative net worths. It happens. But even then, even when it is bad, right? It's still never as bad as the worry was.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. I mean, it's crazy. So if you take no other advice, I would say just look at it anyways. As painful as this may seem, look at it anyways. and I can help you. Just reach out because it's my jam. I totally geek out. It's fun stuff.
Well, I can't thank you enough, Amanda, for just all of the information and all of the insight. And you are right. Our brains are hardwired to make everything seem like we are dying or falling into a
Fight or
hole.
flight.
And until you actually take a look at it. And sometimes that's like the scariest thing. But you're right. It does make it a lot easier to reprimand that thought and be like, yeah, no, because actually, right, then you can rewire those beliefs and you can catch them when they continue to come up, because you can prove to yourself that it's not a true statement anymore, right? And that's something that a lot of people need to understand and remember, is just because your brain is telling you doesn't mean that it's truth. We have to be able to take that apart. We have to be able to figure that out to be able to assess what we want to be our reality and what our brain is saying that it is. And reality is very different from what an actual truth is as well, because of the way the brain is wired, right? So I can't thank you enough for bringing all of this to the surface, because I do feel like that it's a very common issue and it's not talked about enough, and people get very shameful of having that conversation because they don't have, they don't have things together. And what people don't realize is most people have an issue with it. It's just some people have learned to deal with it or are going through it while you're still sitting here going, oh, I can't figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm honored to be here and honored to have the opportunity to spit some truth and some knowledge and some little nuggets. But, at the end of the day, get a mentor, whether it's me or whether it's Kat, or, reach out. They're out there. I mean, even the big dogs, like, you'd be surprised who will respond to you if you just ask questions, and what answers you're going to get. And be very careful, with what you see on social media too. Like, if, there's all kinds of information out there. Just be careful. At the end of the day, this is just like me saying, there's no magic pill, right? There's no magic pill for losing weight and getting your nutrition in order. There's no magic pill for that other than eating colorful food, right? And limiting your portions and getting exercise, right? Like those are the things that you must do. And that's the same thing with your money. There's no get rich quick, quick fix. It's a long-term game. It's for the long haul. So it's just like entrepreneurship, is it not? Oh my gosh, Kat, I know you totally relate with me. We have to say, I'm committed to this for the long haul. Yeah. No matter what happens, I'm going to keep going. And with our money, with our businesses, with our health and wellness, we have to, it's a lifestyle. And until you're ready to totally shift that and transform that journey that you're taking forever and ever until you die, it's not going to get better until you commit and say, I'm ready to go. I'm all in and I'm going forward with this, and I'm going to mess up. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to look silly. I'm going to feel silly, but I'm going to, keep moving forward and get community. OM to the G. Community is everything. Like, we need each other. We need each other. Don't do this alone. It doesn't have to be alone.
Yeah. Yeah. And, and I preach that all the time. Right. And especially when people like us, we've been through it. We know what it's like to be alone, and we know how much it sucks. And it's not worth it. So we're trying to save you all from going through the same thing as much as we have. But, yes. I mean, as we come to a close, I always ask, and I know you just left us with like an amazing piece to chew on, but one thing that I always ask everyone is, do you happen to have a quote or a piece of advice you'd like to leave the audience with?
Today's tiny actions are tomorrow's mighty result. That's one of my old quotes. I don't know when I said it, but every tiny action that you take is going to seem very insignificant. And it's going to seem like you're not making a dent, like you're not moving the needle, but keep doing it anyways. the good actions, obviously, the good little tiny things that you're supposed to be doing, not the bad stuff, right? Those little behaviors that turn into habits. And over time will be a mighty result because it will compound. What you're doing every day will compound into either a big negative result or a big positive result, right? So I hope that's helpful.
Yes, I love that one. I'm all about tiny habits and micro changes. So yes, all the way. Okay, Amanda, so do us all a favor then and tell everyone, how can they find you? How can they connect you? How can they get in your world?
Yeah. So you can find me Linktree/financial FixHer. That's super easy. You'll find all my links there. But of course, my podcast, Financial FixHer Podcast, I have a community on Facebook, Financial FixHer Community. So if you just look up actually, if you Google for fun, Financial FixHer, FixHer, you'll find my stuff. And if you want to DM me, feel free to do that. I'm very active in there, and especially with those that are in my community and taking some of my courses. I have free courses as well, which you have access to a lot more of my trainings and things like that in my community. So I highly suggest getting in there, and you'll get access to everything else from that point.
Yay. Well, thank you so much, Amanda. And of course, we'll have all that information in the show notes. We'll have her link tree in there so you guys can easily find everything about Amanda. And I strongly suggest that you get in her world. So Amanda, thank you again for being an amazing guest today. I can't thank you enough for all of your wisdom that you've shared with us. So
thank you.
To everybody else that's out there, I hope you got some amazing takeaways and you were taking notes. If not, you better watch this episode again. And don't forget, until next time, do one thing positive for someone each and every day and see the difference that it makes in your life. So until next time, have a fantastic day. Hello again, and thank you so much for being a part of the podcast today. If you enjoyed this episode and it brought tons of value, we ask that you please share, like, and subscribe. Your support means the world to us and helps us to reach even more inspiring entrepreneurs who can benefit from these powerful conversations. If you haven't already, be sure to leave a review on your favorite podcast platform, as this feedback is an amazing gift that fuels our growth and helps us to continually improve this podcast. Looking for an extra dose of inspiration and empowerment? Then be sure to connect with me on social media. You can find me at The Lotus Effect, where I share valuable resources and tips while sharing my own journey of being an entrepreneur. And if you're interested in learning more about my coaching programs and services, be sure to check out my website at the-lotus-effect.com. Once again, thank you so much for being a part of Real Chat with Kat. Your presence and support makes all the difference. Remember, whether you find yourself in the depths of the mud or on the path of growth, we all have a unique journey. And just like the lotus, some of us start in the dirtiest of mud, yet as we rise and grow, we blossom into something beautiful, unique, and truly one of a kind. To all of my visionaries out there, keep rising and growing as you create your own Lotus Effect.